Alright, I've had a couple of requests to do a video on how I set up my hammock and my tarp from start to finish. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to set up your tarp. I'm going to show you porch mode, I'm going to show you storm mode, and I'm probably going to show you just where I would normally pitch it if I were out camping. Another option is to go tarpless. I'm going to start off tarpless so you can see exactly what I'm going to do with my hammock. If it were raining, I would start off with the tarp. Starting off with the tarp is going to be great because once the tarp's up, you can work in a dry environment. You don't really have to go out and get wet that much, and I like that. I don't know about you guys. First thing I'm going to be looking for is I'm going to be looking for 2 trees. Now, because of my hiking poles, it just seems to work out reasonably this way. My hiking poles are 120 centimeters tall. I'm going to find 2 trees that are just outside of the reach of my hiking poles. And I don't really want them any closer than if I were touching tree to tree. Really, just out of the reach is going to be really, really good for me, I think. Normally, I would not set up by water. A couple of reasons. Animals like to come near water to drink. Bugs tend to be more around water. And normally water's going to be downhill. And when you're downhill, well, you've got cold breezes coming through. You've got air currents coming down the hill. However, I think it's pretty for this shot. So, not that bad. So, I want to look up. If you look up here, I want to look up and make sure that there are no branches that are going to fall down. Any kind of trees that may be dead that would be a widowmaker, because those falling on you in the middle of the night would be a real bad day. Night, whatever. I'm going to be using UCRs. A UCR is a utility constrictor rope. Kind of like a whoopee sling. This section right here, from the knot that applies tension all the way down to this section, all of this is going to be what's biting onto just my cord here. Then I'm going to be using the mule tape to go around the tree. Not everybody should use mule tape. As Sergeant Rock says, you're probably going to die. I only weigh about 150 to 160 pounds depending upon the time of the year, how much I've eaten, and whether or not I'm actually doing my exercises like I'm supposed to. I find that 1/2 inch mule tape works just fine for me on just about everything. However, traditional convention will say that full 1-inch tree straps is going to be much better for the tree and for distributing your weight. I do multiple wraps with my tree straps, and that seems to work just fine. If it's at night and it's at the end of the camp, I want my head end to be up here by the sun. That way, when the sun rises in the morning, what better wake-up call? My head end, for me, I tend to like about where I can see. So I'm going to wrap this around the tree. And if you notice, I've got multiple wraps on this tree. I'm going to tighten this Dutch hook all the way up, and now I've got a spot here. I'm going to go ahead and slide my UCR down the line, and then kind of give it a quick tug in both directions. This puts me closer towards the center. For my foot end, I like it high, so I'm going to reach up as high as I possibly can. I've got my hammock in a Cuban fiber black bishop bag. A black bishop bag is referring to a member on the hammock forums, where basically on one end, I've got my head in. The other end is my foot in, and I'll just pull it out accordion style. Head in. foot in. Seems a little low to me. So we're going to pick it up some. For a UCR, I'm going to have to make sure that this knot doesn't go anywhere. Give that a good tug, and then pull all the way down. Make sure to milk the line so it doesn't go anywhere. Come to this side, and I'm going to start pulling up. Make sure the knot is good, and then start pulling right here. Now noticeably, you should be looking for about a 30-degree hang. This side's a little off, this side's a little off, but it seems to work all right for me. So I'm going to sit down in the hammock and let's give it a test. Looks good to me. I like to be a little bit closer to my head end personally, so I think that I'm just about where I want this to be. You watched my summer backpacking video about what's in my pack. You probably already saw a little bit about how I connect this, so I'm not going to show you again, but I'll go ahead and at least put it on for you. Next thing I would normally do is put in my top quill. I didn't bring it for this demonstration because really you just toss that in the hammock. This is all set, minus the tarp. I'm going to show you how I put this all up, but I am going to speed it up just for time's sake. I'm hanging this just about head height. I've got a little prusik knot here, tied with some Dyneema fishing line. And I've got some 1.2 millimeter cord here. And I'm going to pull this through. I've got this line on a prusik so that I'll have plenty of space to wrap this all the way around. I'm not sure if I like this method right now, but it seems to be working reasonably well. I've got to go back and forth and check both sides. I want to make sure that this is going to end up about halfway. Let's see, this gives me some clearance on this side. How do we look on this side? Too much on this side. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to it. So I'm going to take a step back and let's look. That should cover all of where I'm going to be. Let's pull out these center tie-outs and see what we've got. Gonna grab some tent stakes, tarp stakes, whatever. Titanium shepherd hook stakes, like. Bring the tarp out. I'm gonna put it about right here. I'm gonna tie a marlin spike hitch. Marlin spike hitch over, and poke that through. Tighten it down. Goes in the ground. Make sure this is good and tight out. You want this to be kind of coming out at an angle, not straight down, but you don't want it so far back that it kind of interferes with anything. So just kind of at a slight angle is what I find best. And you want it kind of pulled back. Notice now I've got both of these lines kind of out. I'm going to go back over here and tighten this one up a little more. Something nice about this is I've also got some of those same prusik loops down here on the bottom that I can adjust and make everything nice and tight. I'm going to go do the other side and I'll show you on the inside. Alright, so you'll notice I've got this pretty wide open. This is probably where I would set it up 90, I don't know, maybe 75% of the time or so. So I can come and get over here, have a nice seat, and I've got plenty of space here. I can do cooking. Normally I don't like to cook around where I'm going to sleep, but say in the morning if it's just going to be something quick or if I need a snack, this is just fine. I've got plenty of space, plenty of ventilation, probably not going to get any kind of condensation whatsoever. Hiking poles. If you want porch mode, you can use hiking poles, or you can find long sticks that are good and sturdy somewhere on the ground. I'm going to flip my hiking pole over, and I'm going to put it right here in this D-ring. And I'll show you what that looks like. So now, I've got my tarp set up in porch mode. If you've got adjustable hiking poles can go up good and tall, and you've got spacious views all around. This is really great to wake up this way. This is a whole lot closer down. I've lowered the tarp just a little bit, so when I come to get in my hammock, I've got to be a little bit more careful. But if it is pouring rain, and it is, particularly if it's starting to get cold or if the wind's starting to blow, then this is probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to hunker this tarp down a little bit more and make sure that there's just no way that the rain can get a hold of me. This is me in storm mode. However, with the doors still rolled back. One of the nice things about this is the amount of ventilation it gives me. I still get ventilation, not a lot of condensation, but I don't have near as much space. To fix the space problem, we're going to go to the SGT Rock pole mod. If you look here, I've got a spot of Cuban fiber I've put into this DIY tarp, and thanks again to SGT Rock for this idea. And then I've got pads here that are going to help protect my tarp from my hiking poles, which I'm going to be here. So if you've seen any of my videos where I've got the shark bite tubing out, this is going to be a slightly more in-depth look at that. Alright, this is a 1-foot piece of shark bite tubing. You might also know it as PEX tubing. I'm going to put this here and kind of spread it out evenly, and then I'm going to determine I need to put hiking pole down in there. On the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. All right, and now I'm going to attach it down here on the bottoms. So now, as you can see, this is actually giving me a great deal more space. So now, if I get in the hammock, it's still closed in real tight around the ends, but this is giving me a great deal more space around. So I can still access this central area. If I wanted to cook or do something like that, I could, and it's really coming down out there. There's one other option I can do, regardless of whether I've got these hiking poles here or not. So take a look, and I'm going to just do it down on this end so you can see what it looks like. Depending upon which way the wind is blowing, I may want to pull in the doors. I can unroll this right here. I've got more of the cord here, and I'm going to stretch it out across to the other side. If I've got my tent stake easily accessible. Once I've got this attached to my tent stake, I'm going to tighten this up good and tight. And that's going to pull in that side. I do the same thing on the other side. I know you may not be able to see this too well. Tighten this up. And now I'm closed off from the elements on whichever side the wind is really blowing in. So if I crawl in my hammock here, wind and rain's probably not going to affect me down on this side. I've still got a side I can get in and out on if the wind's just barreling through on this side. I'm happy, I'm dry, and I'm comfortable. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed.